Imagine looking into a mirror and waiting for your own reflection to finally resolve, but it never does. The nose, the eyes, and the jawline are all visible, yet they refuse to snap together into a person you recognize. Every time you blink, the arrangement of features feels slightly different. This condition is known as prosopagnosia, or face blindness. It is a specific cognitive impairment where the brain cannot process facial identity, even though the physical eyes are functioning perfectly. A person with this condition can read tiny text, identify complex objects, and navigate a crowded room. Their vision is sharp, and their intellectual functioning remains entirely intact. The eyes successfully capture the light, but the brain's internal processing fails to translate those shapes into a known individual. It reveals a gap between seeing the world and understanding who is in it. In a crowded public space, this deficit makes every stranger and every friend look exactly the same. Navigating a busy subway platform becomes a task of moving through a sea of anonymous, interchangeable masks. This constant failure of recognition often leads to chronic social anxiety. Many people with the condition begin to avoid gatherings or social situations to escape the stress of failing to identify those around them. Because the disability is invisible, there is rarely an obvious reason for the recognition failure. Peers often interpret a missed greeting or a blank stare as a sign of arrogance or a lack of interest, creating a persistent social barrier that is difficult to explain. The result is an involuntary distance from others. The visual deficit creates a social isolation that persists regardless of the sufferer's desire for connection. Most people perceive a face holistically as a unified entity, the face superiority effect, driven by the fusiform face area. If damaged, the brain uses slower object recognition, analyzing faces as disconnected parts that never merge. This holistic processing is a learned expertise. A study by Diamond and Carey showed dog show judges use this same system to recognize individual dogs, but that ability fails when the images are inverted. It suggests our brains use a specific spatial map for faces that collapses when the orientation changes. To someone with prosopagnosia, even a familiar face remains a collection of generic biological data points that the brain cannot link to a specific identity. The condition can be acquired through brain lesions or head trauma, but a developmental form also exists, affecting roughly 2% of the population from birth. Researchers confirmed the role of these specific circuits by using direct neuronal stimulation on patients undergoing brain surgery. When an electrical current was applied, patients reported that the faces of people in the room suddenly became unrecognizable, even though their vision remained clear. Data from rhesus macaques supports this, revealing clusters of neurons that activate exclusively when the animal views a face. Our ability to recognize a person is the result of a highly specific biological circuit. When this localized pathway is disrupted, the concept of a known face simply ceases to exist. To compensate for broken facial software, the brain learns to prioritize other physical markers. Sufferers often become experts at identifying people by unique walking gaits. They track a person's vocal pitch, their hairstyle, their posture, and their clothing. They also rely on context, assuming that a person in a specific office must be the individual they usually encounter in that space. This constant conscious analysis of physical details and surroundings is exhausting. Every social encounter requires an active effort to reconstruct an identity that a neurotypical brain would recognize instantly and without thought. While the specialized hardware for faces may be missing, the brain creates these complex workarounds to maintain social function. Prosopagnosia highlights the sharp divide between the act of seeing and the act of perceiving. Our brains constantly synthesize millions of visual data points to construct the identities of those around us. This process is so fast and so seamless that we rarely notice the effort involved. Studying face blindness shows us that recognition is not a given. It is the result of a delicate, invisible biological process that allows us to find each other in a crowd.